About a decade ago, I walked away from the corporate world to become a full-time avocado farmer. If you follow my channel, you've seen a lot about the commercial side of my operation, and today I would like to show you the personal side. I want to take you through our garden and then share with you my personal mango collection. Just behind these bananas, you'll find my vegetable garden. Come on, let's take a look. The area we're standing in right now was woods when I first moved here. It had a combination of hardwood trees and weeds and all kinds of nasty stuff. And then in 2017, Hurricane Irma did me a huge favor. It knocked down all the trees. Take a look. Look at that mess. I'm walking around in thigh-deep water and I've got hundreds of trees knocked down all around me. It took me months to clear this area out, but when I was done, I was left with a space where I could plant a nice garden and even have a nursery for my baby trees. Take a look at a little map of what I'm about to show you here. We're looking north now. This is my north fence line, and this is a passion fruit vine. I put this thing in the ground back in like 2019, and I've just let it grow wild. It's gone up all this bamboo and up all these trees back here, and I have about 50 yards of passion fruit vines starting here and running along this fence line. Then here on the western side, I have my dragon fruit. Dragon fruit likes to climb, and then it spreads out and throws out almost like that, looks like dreadlocks. And at the end of every little one grows a little piece of dragon fruit. So we like to grow them on posts with a frame on top like you see here, or this one here. You see I have a plant rooted into the ground here and another one rooted here. And then I built this trellis so it has something to climb. Smack in the middle here I have my beds. This one's the south, this bed's the middle, and then there's one more bed to the north. Right now I got turnips, red onions, green beans, squash, radishes. I have this delicious spearmint. I love it. I have some lettuce, some more squash, some different kinds of tomatoes. I got some jalapenos here. I love to have jalapenos going. You can keep them going all year round down here. Then I planted some Everglades grape tomatoes here in this bed. They grow to like 10 by 10. They grow like weeds. And then down at the other side, cucumbers. I have cucumbers in down there. Right here, I got 2 rows of okra, and I relocated all my pineapples to this section here. And as I grow more pineapples, I'm just gonna continue to add rows. This is gonna be my pineapple area. You could see back behind the okra is another section of bananas. These were here when I moved in. They were kind of being taken over by that forested area I told you about. Then when we had the hurricane, everything just fell in on them. That was 2017, so it's going on 6-7 years, and I've been trying to rehabilitate this section of bananas, but they're kind of weak. They've just never really bounced back from the hurricane. I probably could have spent more time and effort fussing with them, but I had other more higher priority things to tend to. But I get a few 100 pounds of different varieties of bananas out of this patch. And look, we have a bunch growing right here. Here's that row of bananas I told you I have down the southern side of my garden. And this has a variety of, I think one's called Senorita. I have Gros Michel. I have Manzano variety. And there's also a few kinds of plantains. There's some really big plantains and some little fat ones. And then just in the shade created by these bananas, I keep my seedlings. I've got hundreds of seedlings here. Avocado, mango, mamey, sapodilla, carambola, caimito. And this is a really good place to store and grow these seedlings when I run out of space in our shade house. Then after the seedlings are grafted and they've grown to a level where they're ready to take full or mostly full sunlight, I just move them a little bit to the east here, and the bananas don't block out the sun. And for those of you who don't know, when I say grafted, we take a seedling. This is a seedling up to right here. From here up is a cutting of a mango. This is a Pickering mango. This is a cutting that goes up like that. So we start with a seedling, we take a cutting from a tree and we put it in there, and that's how we control what kind of mango we get from the tree. Well, once they start to thicken up, they're ready to take full sunlight, so I can just put them here in the nursery. Now let's switch gears and talk about mangoes. The section you see behind me here, and you know, why don't I flash up the map of this section too? This is a section that was also grown in with large hardwoods and stuff like that. And over the last year, I cleared everything back and I planted about, I don't know, a dozen or maybe 15 mangoes, whatever you see there in the little orange circles on the map. And this is what I call my specialty mango section. These are some of the more rare types of mangoes, some of the slower growers. Maybe the trees don't produce as much mangoes, but the mangoes they produce taste delicious. These are the ones we keep and eat ourselves. Let's start with this guy here. This is a Gary mango, and one of the things I love about it, the leaves have a, oh my God, have a delicious citrus smell. And it's my understanding, now you hear a lot of lore and a lot of background about the, you know, the origin tales of these mango trees. But this one's called a Gary. It's named after Gary Zill. The Zill family is a family that creates a lot of new varieties of mango. Some of the ones I'm going to show you here are Zill varieties. And the story is that this one is supposedly offspring of the Kerry mango. And it does taste a little bit like the Kerry, but in my opinion, it tastes a lot better. It's a slow grower, and it sometimes takes a year off. So it's not something I'd really want to plant like for the commercial side of the farm here, but for us, for the collection, it's perfect. And this is kind of like the anchor tree of my collection because it's one of my favorite, all-time favorite mangoes. Continuing in a clockwise direction, and this is a section of land about the size of a football field, it brings us to our next Zill-related variety. This variety was not created by the Zills, but it was made popular by the Zills. This is called a lemon meringue, or also known as a PPK. This tree came into America from Asia. I can't remember what country. And PPK is its Asian name, like Poo Pai Ket or something like that. I can't remember. But the Zills renamed it lemon meringue. And it is a very popular specialty mango here in America. I've tasted it, and this mango makes me think the name key lime pie was already taken, because when I take a bite of a lemon meringue mango, it actually reminds me of key lime pie. So when I tasted one, I just had to have it. And so that one would be the next one I planted next to the Gary. Next we have our Ford tree, and this one I didn't plant. This was here when we moved in. Going by the size of that trunk, this thing's probably about a 20-year-old, maybe 18, 19-year-old tree. And the reason I love the Ford variety is because the fruit, we don't pick it until the month of September. And usually by then, most of the other mangoes are done. We pick mangoes typically in late May, June, July, a little bit into August. By September, most of the varieties are done. This is considered a late season mango. And the mangoes are also huge. They're 5 pounds each, so they're kind of like a novelty. And I love them. They have that classic Florida mango taste that I love so much. This tree has a lot of new growth. It's got a lot of flowering going on at the top now, but I've been working it little by little because it got, first of all, you see this 2x4 here. This guy got blown down in Hurricane Irma with all those hardwoods I told you. So I had to stand it back up, let it grow back, and frankly, for about 4 years, I just let it do its thing. Now for the last 2 years, I'm trying to like trim it back into shape and give it like a bushy round and bring some of the branches down lower, so that it has more of a shape that's conducive to productivity. Next we have this Hindi Basanari. He's only been in the ground less than a week, but this was a 3-gallon tree, so it's probably about 2 or 3 years old. I have not tasted the Hindi Basanari, but it came recommended to me. Then I went online and I read about it, and it sounded like something I wanted to get. It's not a dwarf, but it's also not a very fast grower. And so I wanted him here because I don't really want a huge tree here. My Ford is going to be like my big tree. Then I wanted a couple like small or small-ish trees around it. And so I put in this Hindi Basanari, and I'm told it's very delicious. Next we have Lemon Zest. And he too has only been in the ground about 4 days. I got him and put him in the same day as the Hindi Basanari. Lemon Zest is also a beloved mango variety here in South Florida. And it is the offspring of the lemon meringue. It is the offspring of the PPK. I've tasted it. It tastes a lot like the lemon meringue, but it's a bigger mango, and it's really delicious. In fact, when I first put the lemon meringue in, everyone's like, why didn't you get a lemon zest? Why didn't you get a lemon zest? In fact, if you go down into the comments by now, there's probably already people who are telling me I planted the wrong trees and what I should plant based on their personal preference. But now I can tell people, look, I got the lemon meringue over there, and I have the lemon zest right here. This next one is called a Wise, and Wise also went in the ground the same day as the lemon zest and the Hindi Basanari. I chose Wise because I went to Laura Farms and I asked Julian, the owner of Laura Farms, I said, I'm looking for a fast grower and a high producer, but like not one of the common classic Florida ones like Valencia Pride, Hayden, Glen, Kit, Kent. I wanted something a little more obscure, a little less known, a little less common. And he said, oh, why don't you try the Wise? And so I looked it up and read about it, and I thought it made a lot of sense. And this will be a faster grower than the others, but I've got this guy kind of separated down here. He's got a lot of space to grow. In fact, he's taking the place of what was a 30-year-old mango tree that was here that just, it got real unhealthy and I had to get rid of it. So, you know, in about a decade, this is gonna be the anchor tree of this sort of middle area of my garden here. Next here we have a seedling tree. This is a seedling trunk that was about 30 feet high. I cut it. It's what, about maybe a 10-inch diameter or so. And I let it put these new sprouts out and grafted, just like I showed you those little seedlings that I grafted. I grafted a different variety onto this tree. Unfortunately, none of the grafts took. Like you see this guy here, he's all brown and dry. Watch, I'm gonna crack it right off. That's a dead graft. You see the tape? This graft did not take. And so what I'll do is I will let this grow some more and I'll come back in and trim it and I'll try again. I did not like the flavor of the mango on this tree, so I took a cutting from a different tree and put it on here, but like I said, it failed. I didn't do a good enough job. This tree right here makes me really, really happy. This is a Kesar variety mango, and it's replacing a Kesar variety mango that was in this very hole that I killed about 2 months ago. We were doing some work with heavy machinery and one of my guys just drove right over it by accident. It kind of had to happen. It wasn't really an accident. The tree was kind of in the way of getting to where we needed to get to, and it was a higher priority job than keeping the tree. So we waited till the job was finished. We did all our shredding. I went out and got myself another Kesar tree at Lara Farms, and then we had to find the hole, because digging holes here in South Florida, you're digging in solid rock. And so we kind of probed around and cleared everything out until we found the hole, and we planted this Kesar in the hole of the original Kesar that was there. Now, when I took this guy from the nursery, he was flowering. He had a bunch of panicles with flowers on it. I did not expect those panicles to live, and I certainly did not expect them to produce fruit. But now, just in the few days that this guy's been in the ground, he's pushed out a new panicle. And the flowers are open, and I actually see insects crawling around on there. So who knows? I may wind up with a Kesar mango off of this guy this season. Now, if that Gary mango tree we started talking about was at 12 o'clock, this Mahachinook mango is at the 6 o'clock position of our property. I had the opportunity. Oh, is he flower? Oh, he's starting to flower. Oh my God, that's fantastic. I was exposed to the Mahachinook, again, over at Lara Farms. I was just taking a little walk with Julian. He was showing me some trees. And he cut one of these that was ripe off a tree and said, taste that. I fell in love. And he also, the tree was only about maybe 14, 15 feet high. He told me it was a 12-year-old tree and that he had just let it grow to that height with very little trimming and pruning and stuff like that. So it's I don't think it's a dwarf per se, but it's a slow grower also, which will work well for me here because I got this Jaboticaba right behind it. I don't really want a giant tree right here. Also, just here to the right, I need to leave a little access way for getting vehicles, trucks in and out. Part of having a farm, you have to leave room for your equipment. So I can't have a giant tree right here, but I love the Mahachinook, and I think it's a beautiful tree, and it's also resistant to the bacteria and the anthracnose that we get here. So it's a very clean, nice looking fruit. I'm really looking forward to eating Mahachinooks. Now, as we're working our way back up the other side toward the Gary, that brings me to this coconut cream. I tasted a coconut cream last year at a Father's Day mango tasting event, and I fell in love. And in fact, I love coconut cream so much that it's the only tree I got two. I bought two of these coconut creams. So I have one here, and then this guy, let's see if you can see it. This guy right here, this guy just back there, that's also a coconut cream. So I actually put two coconut creams in here. That's how much I love this. Now, does it taste like coconut cream pie? I don't think so, you know, but it's a very good tasting mango. I was in sales and marketing all my life. I understand why people come up with these names, but they could have called this anything. I would have bought it because these are delicious mangoes. This Pim Sung Moon variety mango was given to me as a gift by my tropical fruit buddy, Chemo. Chemo introduced me to eating mangoes when they're green. There's certain varieties of mango that are delicious when they're green. Pim Sung Moon happens to be one of those varieties. He shared one with me. I loved it. My wife loved it. He was so moved by how much we loved the Pim Sung Moon that he gave me one. This guy here is called an 015. I think I've mistakenly referred to it as 019 in some of my videos. This is another Zill variety. So we had the Gary, we had the what they've named the lemon meringue. The lemon zest was cultivated by the Zills. The coconut cream comes from the Zills. And this is 015, which means that this is a seedling that was grown in their nursery in the pot that was labeled O-15, probably like column O, row 15. They haven't given it a fancy name like coconut cream or lemon meringue or, you know, peanut butter and jelly or whatever. It's still known as 015. However, people rave about this variety. And from what I read, it's a vigorous grower, not super vigorous like a Valencia Pride or something like that, but that it is going to grow pretty good, which is great because this is here all by himself. He's just got an oak tree not too far away. And so I'll let this guy kind of be another one of the larger anchor trees. And I've never tasted it, but I've heard so many great things about the 015 that I had to have one. Now we kind of come to the middle of this section, and I've got this beautiful Julie mango tree. The Julie is a super slow grower, and it is a favorite amongst my Jamaican customers and YouTube subscribers. In fact, I had so many Jamaican people ask me if I grow the Julie that I reached out to one of my Jamaican subscribers, Doug, and said, Doug, I gotta try the Julie mango. Sure enough, he grows one in his backyard. He brought me some Julie mangoes. I think I was out there like the next day or 2 days later getting a Julie tree. And I got this guy in the ground. My only regret, I wish I got a bigger one, maybe like a 15-gallon, so I could get a little bit more of a head start. But it is what it is. This guy's gonna take forever to grow. And look, this teeny tiny Julie is already flowering. It's only been in the ground here about 8-9 months. Another tree that was severely crowded out was this carambola or starfruit. It happens to be the one that we took this cutting from. We just went and, you know, took a little clip of a branch and put it on this seedling like I showed you earlier. That's where this cutting came from. This tree has been crowded out by a handful of mango trees and other trees since I moved here. And when I say crowded, I mean like branches hanging over it from this side, from the back, from that side. It's always kind of been in the way. I never really cared because it's such a productive tree. Even then it gave me more starfruit than I can eat. And so as you see, while I was out here doing my cutting, I also gave this guy a significant haircut. Look, I gave it some pruning all over the place, and it's growing back like mad. It's already done one fruiting cycle. This guy has 3 fruiting cycles per year also, and it'll fruit for like 3 months. I mean, I have fruit on this tree almost constantly throughout the year. We just finished with one cycle, so I'll have about a month and then it'll start popping fruit. In about 50, 60 days, I'll be eating starfruit again. But something I've never seen before, these yellow rust-colored leaves have popped up all over. Now I see yellow leaves, but I've never seen this with these rust-colored spots. And I don't know if that's a factor of like it's finally exposed to sunlight for the first time or what, because this guy's pretty much been like in a bush, like in shade, at least for the last 13 years. But I chose to leave this tree in place. I love the starfruit that this tree produces. They taste like apples, but sweeter. They taste like, basically if you took the texture of an apple and the flavor of an orange and then kind of mixed apple and orange flavor together, that's what these starfruit taste like. They're delicious and they're so juicy. The juice just gets all over you. I love this tree. This is a Brazilian tree called Jaboticaba. The fruit is called Jaboticaba. It's also known as the Brazilian grape, and the fruit does resemble a grape. It doesn't hang in bunches. Each individual fruit grows off the bark, but the individual fruits do resemble a grape. They've got like a dark purple skin with a white flesh and a seed inside, but a very different flavor. And this tree also was well established when I was here. These are super slow growers. This is probably a 20-plus-year-old tree. Now, it should be bigger, but this guy was also crowded in. See, you got to remember, this whole section here was just giant trees and branches everywhere. It took me months by myself to clear all this stuff out. As a result, this Jaboticaba, for at least for the first time since I've moved here, is getting full sunlight, like from all sides. And he definitely looks a little dry. It's March 2nd today. Normally by now this thing is loaded with fruit. Usually by the end of February I'm picking fruit like crazy, racing the birds to get at the fruit. But he's only just flowering. Let me show you a flower. So this tree is only just starting to flower now in March. You see this little white, that's a flower, that's a flower, that's a flower, that's a flower, there's a flower over there. So he's about 60 days behind on the flowering. Now he's also producing some fruit, and I'm gonna see if I could find a ripe one here for you. But like I say, by now this thing normally has thousands of these little grape-like looking or cherry-looking things all over it. I think it's kind of like in a state of shock from being exposed to full sunlight. And I think one thing I'm going to need to do is run some type of irrigation out here, because these things like a lot of water. And now that he's going to be getting beat down by the sun, I'm going to have to give him more water, that's for sure. The last thing I have to show you is our work area. If you remember when I was talking about the Maha Chinook, I said I need space to get a truck in. You got to get your equipment in, and you got to remember that when you're planting. And then, you know, I just use this tree to prop my tools. I have my little table and my bamboo area back there, and I got this nice shady oak and some of these strangler figs over here to create shade. Now, I hate these trees, but for the purposes over here, I like them, because I just want a nice, shady, quiet spot for when I'm out working in the garden, so I could just kind of come in here, get out of the sun, work with my tools. I have some access to water, and I got my little table over there and stuff like that. And then I also let my firewood dry back here. And so whenever I cut the type of wood I like to burn, of course, oak is awesome for burning. Mango wood burns really well. Avocado wood, not so much. It's kind of like paper. I use it, but it burns up real fast. But this I try and really just stack like oak and mango from big established mango trees. That's the firewood pile. So what did you get to see today? You got to see our vegetable garden, our tree nursery, a few of our banana patches, and then I took you on a clockwise tour of our specialty mango collection. And then we wrapped up talking about the carambola, jaboticaba, and the mulberry. If you're curious about spacing, my vigorous growers I put 16 feet apart. The dwarfish ones I'm putting as close as 8 feet to other trees. But you gotta remember, I don't really mind cutting down a tree. If I put a few trees too close together, I have no problem firing up the chainsaw and cutting one of them out of there. But if it's a slow grower and it'll be 10 years before they're crowded out, why not enjoy that fruit? And speaking of enjoying fruit, if you would like to enjoy some of our fruit, go to guacfarm.com. GUACFARM.com. We sell our tropical fruit when it's in season. We sell these t-shirts and hats. And coming soon, we're going to be selling the little cuttings. Remember I showed you the grafting? We're going to be selling cuttings from our mango trees and our avocado trees so that you can graft onto your own seedlings at home. Now, I don't know if you can tell from this video, but the lighting and the wind is just about perfect to go out and do some bass fishing. And I got about 4 hours of light left. So I'm gonna head down into Everglades National Park and see if I can catch me some fish. While I do that, you go to guacfarm.com and I will see you on the next video.